evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you coming out tonight, especially on such an icky night. We really appreciate you taking the time to come here and learn about butterflies. My name is Catherine. I'm a research librarian here at the Mount Prospect Public Library, and we're going to be talking about planting for butterflies tonight. I want to welcome our presenters for tonight's program. We have multiple presenters, and they are all from the Garden Club of Mount Prospect. Yay! So thank you so much to the Garden Club and all of you for being here. They are going to share their knowledge and experience with planting for butterflies with us. And I just want to really thank you for all the time and effort that you put in for this presentation. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And I will now turn it over to Jeannie, who is the president of the Garden Club.
Hello, everyone. We're really happy that you're here. Thanks for coming out. The Garden Club has been around for 63 years in Mount Prospect, and we have a variety of projects that we work on, one of which is that butterfly garden over by the ice cream store. But today, we're not really going to talk about the club. If you have any questions about it or want some information, there's some information in the handout on the table, or you can talk to one of us after the program. So as gardeners, we all love to talk about plants. Tonight we're going to talk about how to make your garden hospitable to butterflies. We're not going to talk about monarch butterflies, because I believe you have already learned the lessons about monarchs, right? You know, they need milkweed and so forth. So, but there are a lot of other butterflies in Illinois, so we're going to talk about some of those. So as I said, that's the butterfly garden. I'm sure you've seen it if you've gone to have ice cream. All right, those are some of the other butterflies of Illinois than what we know. And I find when I talk to people don't really know very many butterflies if you ask them. And I was the same way. We love butterflies because they're beautiful. They are pollinators, but they're also an important part of the food chain. And we're going to talk about that tonight. And that involves caterpillars. So we're going to ask you tonight to adjust your thinking about caterpillars. Caterpillars, butterflies are an important part of the food chain. So this is a very simple diagram starting with the plant. And then that caterpillar is an herbivore. And then we go up the food chain to birds and larger carnivores. But keep in mind that the first two steps on this diagram. There's a well-known ecologist and entomologist named Doug Tallamy. You may be aware of him. He's written a few books, but he has one piece of research that he's written about that speaks well for caterpillars. What he did was he wanted to find out, he saw in his yard a nest of chickadees, and he was wondering, watching the parents go off and come back with a caterpillar every so often, he was wondering how many caterpillars would it take to raise a nest full of chickadees. So he did the observation and counted all those trips, and it turned out to be about 6,000 caterpillars for that nest. Isn't that amazing? I didn't believe it at first, but it shows the centrality of that. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't used to love caterpillars. I don't really love them now, but they're kind of ishy, and you want to make sure you don't step on one. But caterpillars are everywhere, really. They're in the trees, and they come in all sorts of colors and patterns. So you have to kind of become more aware of their role because they're important. So what your butterflies need in your yard if you're making a garden is, first of all, they need some nectar plants. So these are going to be familiar plants to you. In the picture, you can see cosmos, the tall verbena, bee balm, coneflower, blazing star, lantana, milkweed, of course, zinnias, and coreopsis. So all of those are good food for butterflies. And the way to make them appealing to the butterflies and help them find them, it's often helpful to plant a group, to plant multiple plants, sort of a swath of one flower, because then when the butterflies are flipping over your yard, it'll be obvious to them that there's something they like. Or here's another swath of zinnias. So there are nectar plants that we just saw, and then there are host plants. And this is how I learned about host plants. I have a favorite plant. It's a blue false indigo, looks like that. And I just really like that plant. But early on, I was horrified one day when I went out and there were caterpillars all over my very favorite plant. And I really freaked out and I thought, oh no, it's going to eat the whole plant and it'll be destroyed and so forth. Well, that didn't happen. I didn't know at that time, but that was a very good thing. And that's what the plant was there for the caterpillars to come and lay their eggs. And the butterfly for indigo is the wild indigo dusky wing. So that's what I was encountering, but I didn't know it. All right. I'm going to introduce Sue, who's going to continue.
Hi. My name's Sue. The United States has 44 million acres of lawn, bigger than all New England put together. They are ecological dead spaces that host virtually no caterpillars or butterflies. Butterfly gardens attract and support butterfly populations by providing nectar-rich flowers and host plants for caterpillars. These gardens use native species to ensure food and shelter for butterflies through their life cycles. Butterfly gardens also enhance biodiversity and add beauty to your space. Garden plant selection impacts local ecosystems, especially butterflies. Butterfly caterpillars often require plants of a specific species for food, making plant choices crucial. Butterflies can be fussy eaters. Understanding the butterfly life cycle, their unique needs, and common requirements like nectar sources and host plants helps gardeners create landscapes that nurture and sustain butterfly populations. In your garden, create a dedicated corner with host plants adjacent to nectar plants to support egg laying and feeding. Group plants by bloom time for continuous nectar availability throughout the season. Position your garden in full sun or light shade and include safe pathways so butterflies can move between host and nectar plants. Avoid pesticides. They impact every stage of the butterfly life cycle. And she just posted something online about that. I'm like, holy cow. Butterflies and moths undergo a complete metamorphosis, which has 4 distinct stages: egg, larva, caterpillar, and of course the butterfly or moth. Depending on the species, eggs may be laid singly or in clusters on or near the host plants. And some of these people later will show you photos of these tiny eggs because you wouldn't even see them. Caterpillars of some species feed on many different kinds of plants, and others tend to feed on only one particular species. The lifespan of the adult butterfly is only about 2 to 3 weeks, but this can vary greatly among species. Species that overwinter as adults, such as monarchs, can live for many months, especially the ones that migrate to Mexico. Most Illinois butterflies overwinter here. In their short lifespan, adult butterflies must find a mate in the right place to lay their eggs to begin the butterfly life cycle all over again. Following and exploring the life cycle of a butterfly is a rewarding way to gain deeper understanding of these remarkable insects. Most Illinois butterflies overwinter locally, sheltering under leaves and inside seed pods or tree crevices. Some adults produce chemicals that act as antifreeze, allowing them to survive in cold temperature. To attract butterflies, avoid cleaning up dead leaves and seed pods in your perennial landscape until late spring, preserving their critical winter habitat. If you must cut them back early, cut and drop the plant material, leaving it right where it falls. It's an effective method to nourish the soil, control weeds, and reduce garden waste without relying on chemicals or labor-intensive process. It also saved butterfly life cycles. The fall cleanup doesn't really happen at my yard. I pull out old veggies, but leave all my perennials and leaves. In fact, I take the leaves from nearby trees and rake them into my garden. My lawn service thinks I'm crazy. He's busy blowing the leaves out of my garden as fast as I'm putting them back in. It's true. I can't convince him different. Plants for your butterfly garden involve native flowers, shrubs, and trees. Adults prefer flat flowers that act as a landing platform. Plants in clumps because butterflies are attracted by color as well as sun, as Jeannie was showing you earlier. Make sure you have flowers that bloom all season long. Loose, well-drained soil is preferred by natives, but they will grow in almost any sort of soil because of their strong root system. They also need little water once they're established. Your garden requires 6 or more hours of sunlight. Water for the butterflies. A small dish with sand or pebbles can provide them with the water and the minerals they need. Include some dark-colored rocks for basking. Butterflies need temperatures of 85 to 100 degrees for flying. A small open mud puddle patch works well for puddling parties too. Excuse me. Elevation. A slight slope will protect butterflies from wind. Be sure to have an overwintering spot of log piles, leaves, tree crevices, and under tree bark for non-migrating butterflies. I keep a small pile of fallen branches and sticks in the back corner of my yard beneath a large shrub. And as I mentioned, I leave all my leaves every fall. I actually take sticks all the time and just break them up and throw them back in my gardens. It's like, I think they're free wood chips. I'm here as a caterpillar advocate. Butterflies are not like cute little puppies and kittens. They have ugly phases before they get to the magical butterfly. We all love butterflies, but we need to help them at every phase in their life. It's believed that caterpillar stage is the most dangerous in the life cycle of a butterfly. Their mortality rates are very high. Caterpillars are subject to weather conditions, disease, parasite, and predators, like those chickadees. Many adult species lay hundreds of eggs, with only a few surviving to become adults. You may need to support most caterpillar species. Many trees and shrubs are also great hosts for life cycles of butterflies. They include oaks, any native oak. Oaks host more caterpillar species than any other tree genus in North America. If you only plant one tree in your yard, plant an oak. Willows are second in caterpillar support. They're fast-growing and good near water. Cherry and plum trees are third. They also produce fruit. I've been to several lectures recently where the presenter mentions the before they knew, just like Jeannie did. They wanted the butterflies, but they wanted to get rid of the caterpillars. We need to remember the tiny eggs we see in the caterpillars are future butterflies. And just as the sign, you want the magic, but you kill the magician. When you squash that ugly worm eating your parsley, you think you're saving the plant, but instead you're just destroying next month's butterflies. You can't demand the beauty while refusing to tolerate the messy process it creates. Next, Beth is going to talk about individual butterflies and host and nectar plants. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, I gotta make sure it's close enough. So the two butterflies that I chose to talk about are ones that are frequent visitors to my yard, one that we want and one that we really don't. But I thought that this one's gonna be in most people's yards anyway, so I thought it was good to talk about it. So the first one is the black swallowtail. The females lay eggs on multiple plants. We'll talk about the host plants on the next slides. And those are some of the pupas. The butterflies can overwinter in the pupas. I did not take the photos of the pupas or this egg, but, because honestly, until last year, I was never looking for eggs. But this is dill this year that I had, and this particular dill didn't have an egg on it, but later on I found it, and if you have a dill plant and you look, I mean, the eggs are visible to the naked eye, and they look perfectly round. So they actually are not as hard to see as you might think. So these are some black swallowtail caterpillars, and all these were taken last year in my garden because I never noticed caterpillars in my garden before last year because I didn't really have any host plants. I had a lot of nectar plants, so I saw a lot of butterflies. But last year was the year that I planted fennel for the first time. So the host plants include fennel, carrot, parsley, celery, dill, golden Alexander. All those things are in the same family, plant family. But the one I had a lot of last year was I had a lot of fennel. My dill died out early, so right now I've seen a bunch of caterpillars this year already because I have dill. My fennel is just only this big right now, but that's where most of them were last year. So this one has 5 different instars, which means the caterpillar will shed its exoskeleton and it will grow. And the monarchs, I saw my first baby monarch caterpillar a couple weeks ago, like this big, really short and really skinny, and the colorings were all the same as the full-size one. But these, they start off kind of black with just one stripe around the middle, and then they change in look, and then this guy on the bottom here is your full-grown one. I showed these two because that's the fennel flower. I was growing it to eat the bulb because I like fennel. And then I let it go to flower and to seed, and I never ate it because the bulb really doesn't develop if you let it do that. But not only do the caterpillars love it, but then you can just let those seeds go brown, pull them off, and use them all winter as a spice. I put that little icon down there on the bottom, the iNaturalist icon, because I don't know if anybody has this app, but it's pretty awesome whether you have a garden or not. If you're curious enough to be walking in the neighborhood and be like, what is that tree? What is that weird mushroom growing on the ground? What is this thing? You just take a picture and it does a lot better than just the Google image thing. It pulls it up. That's how I identified that all 3 of these were the same caterpillar because I didn't know. I mean, I have a field guide of big caterpillars, but not of the small ones. So I would recommend that. It's free, although if you want to have some extra features, it could cost some money, but I think it's free for the most part. So celery is one of those in the family. I showed this one because I grew celery last year for the first time. And it's pretty cool. If you've never seen it grow, I don't know. I was just I was asking the lady who helped me plant my garden, what about the celery? How do I know when to eat it? And she goes, those are the stalks. When you're thick enough then you could cut them off and eat them. And then this is Joan's not Jones, God, Jeannie's Golden Alexander from her front yard. And I did plant a little bit of that this year. The bunnies ate a little, but I think it's gonna look good next year. So it's a native perennial. As far as carrots, dill, you can grow them from seed. Well, carrots I would grow from seed because they're a taproot, right? So you're just going to put them in. I'm just showing two different ways. These were obviously a little while ago. I planted seeds in my raised bed for carrots, but my daughter planted seeds in like March when she could barely work the ground, just into the ground, and she had huge carrots like before, when mine looked like this. I planted dill from plants this year, which I liked because they were nice and they were getting caterpillars early, but you can also plant dill from seeds, and anybody knows you let the thing go to flower, it'll get seeds and you can plant more. For those people who plant dill, does it grow all summer or does it burn out? Will it grow out all summer? Because right now I'm about ready to mine's getting really huge. I've never grown it before this much. It kind of died out last year, so this year it's getting a little out of control, but it's got a lot of caterpillars. So anyway, here I'm just showing you a video of how to plant fennel. You could buy it, at the nursery, and you could see, I'm not going to show you the whole video, but see how it's got like multiple stalks. If you cut them, and I'll just show you enough of the video to show them being cut. But if you cut them, then they each have a chance to develop their own bulb, but also if you're not worried about the bulb and you're just gonna go for the flowers and the seeds and all, you're gonna have, multiple plants. I think we got like 5 plants out of this one pot of fennel that we got at the nursery. And this one does need to be planted more like your tomatoes. The other ones that I was showing are going to be planted earlier. So like you can get caterpillars on dill nice and early, but this guy's got to wait a little bit. The black swallowtail butterflies like a lot of the same nectar plants as some of the other butterflies. These are all butterflies that have been in my yard over the years. I always had butterflies. I just didn't have caterpillars because I had a lot of nectar and not a lot of, host plant stuff. But we have phlox, butterfly weed, coneflowers, Joe Pye weed, the liatris. Queen of the Prairie on the bottom right is one of my favorites. It's a native and it can be 3 to 5 feet tall if you've got some area to grow it, but it blooms a little earlier. So like mine's gonna be blooming in the next week or two. So you get a little nectar earlier than maybe some of the other ones that are going on. We thought it would be good to show pictures that kind of showed you the scale of some of these things and what they look like in your garden. So the liatris is pretty cool because, it's about yay tall, but also see if you let it go to seed, the birds like the seed too. So we got some goldfinches on that. Joe Pye weed, these are all in my yard, but the Joe Pye weed, I got baby Joe Pye weed, which was not supposed to get more than 3 feet, and it's more like 3 to 5 feet. So I definitely, unless you want like a 7 to 8 foot plant, if you want Joe Pye, we'd get the baby version instead of the big version. And then phlox, I'll show you another picture, but that phlox just planted itself there. I didn't plant it there. I'm just showing you this so that you can understand. A garden is just an experiment for those of you who are not already in the garden club here and don't already know this. But this was my yard 15 years ago, and I had this little oak tree. Now, did I plant it because of caterpillars? No, I didn't know that. But I just loved the swamp white oak. So we planted an oak tree, and I have one Queen of the Prairie, and I have a little bit of phlox, and that's it. And this is what it did. Now, clearly, I planted some other things under there that died. Some of them moved, whatever. But this down here, most of this just planted itself. The nice thing about these things, though, I have no tolerance for plants that plant themselves that I can't just yank. If I wanted to yank the phlox or whatever, I could do it. It's not aggressively, it's not hard to get rid of if you want to. And these are just a couple other things of how I just randomly have coneflowers that planted themselves in the middle of stuff, and I've, got some daylilies and whatever else. It's kind of beautiful chaos there for the nectar plants. Okay, so the cabbage butterflies. I didn't really notice a lot of these till last year when I decided to grow a lot of their host plants. But again, I did not take these pictures, but I'm showing you that the underside of the leaves here is where you're going to get eggs or egg clusters. These are not native species, but they've been in this country since the 1800s, came over from Europe. And if you see the little white thing flitting around and it's got a host plant, it's going to lay some eggs on it. So you can assume you've got eggs if you've seen the cabbage butterfly floating around. So these two up in the upper right and upper left corner, I did not take those because if I see those caterpillars, they freak me out and I don't think to stop and go, ooh, let me take a picture of them. I got those off the internet, but I have brought in some kale and had it in my sink and been washing my kale and going, I saw a caterpillar. So these I do squish, sorry, these are the ones I'm not going to deal with. But they like all the brassicas. And I grew all this last year. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy. And yeah, but the nice thing is it didn't really kill much. I mean, if you've got like a really baby plant, there's a chance that if it gets caterpillar, the baby thing's gone. But I showed you here just some damage to some of the outer of my two cabbages last year. But look, when I pulled off the outer leaves and I brought them in the kitchen, they're perfectly fine. So, I mean, a lot of it's going to be cosmetic damage. And I mean, this was my cabbage last year in August. If you guys notice, gardens are blowing up this year. I mean, my cabbages are gigantic right now, and I already ripped off a bunch of outside leaves just because. So some prevention strategies, perhaps give them some food that isn't brassicas to eat. They do like to eat nasturtiums, and nasturtiums are really pretty. I took this picture in mid-October last year, and it was still blooming. You could see it's good for the pollinators there. You could plant some fragrant herbs because sometimes the smell will dissuade the butterflies from being able to notice where their host plants are. And then also, some of these are good for attracting lacewings and lady beetles and whatever that can help parasitize those caterpillars as well. And then this has nothing to do with this, but that little video, nasturtiums are so cool because they're almost like the lotus effect. They have these teeny little hairs, nano-sized hairs on the top of their leaves. And so if you get water on them, it's like a perfect little sphere. And I don't know, it amuses me, so I had to show you that. So anyway, now we have Joan to talk about her butterflies.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm going to talk about two butterflies and a story about my zinnias as well. The first butterfly would be the red admiral butterfly. And it's a medium-sized butterfly known for its striking black, red, and white pattern. Their velvety black wings are accented by bright red or orange and white spots near the tips of their forewings. Their habitat is widely distributed across North and South America, Europe, Asia, North Africa, the Caribbean, Hawaii, and New Zealand. They use all members of the nettles family. This includes more than 50 different plant genera, far broader than other common butterflies like the monarchs that only use milkweed. They also use lamium as host plant. Red admirals are chaotic flyers. They change direction many times in their flight pattern. And they have some distinct differences from other butterflies. They're very territorial. And if an intruder wanders into their habitat, they will not get a warm welcome. They breed from late spring into early summer in North America. Red admirals have some distinct, I mentioned the distinct differences from other butterflies. For nectar, they like lantana, purple coneflower, black-eyed Susan, butterfly bush, and zinnias. Also like to feed on overripe fruit, tree sap, and bird droppings. Now, I said I have a story about my zinnias. I love zinnias. I think they are just beautiful. They have amazing colors and different shapes and sizes. So the first year I planted them as a backdrop for my roses. I thought, it's going to really look nice. So I planted them, and every morning I'd go out and say, oh, they're coming up really nice. This is going to be nice. So one morning I went out. I'm like, where are my zinnias? They're gone. Oh no. I said, oh, those darn rabbits. I said, okay. I was a little upset, but I said, I'm going to outsmart those rabbits. So I went out and got 2 large pots, a couple of zinnia packets of seeds, some wood chips, and some soil. And I put wood chips on the bottom, soil on the top, planted my seeds, and they grew beautifully. Then, when they were about 3 to 5 inches tall, I transplanted them into the garden, and the rabbits didn't bother them. So I think from previous experience, the rabbits only like young, tender shoots. So that's my zinnia story. Now I'm going to talk about the great spangled flitterary butterfly. Say that 3 times fast. The great spangled butterfly is a fascinating species of butterfly native to North America. The great spangled flitterary is active predominantly from mid-June to mid-September. The great spangled butterfly is easily recognizable by its jet black body adorned with spine-like structures. Each spine is tipped with an orange spot, adding a splash of color to an otherwise dark larva. The great spangled flitterary life cycle is a little different than most butterflies. They only brood 1 generation per year, but they have longer lifespans. Most butterflies fly for a month at most, and many much less. The great spangled, on the other hand, flies for several months, from mid-June to mid-September. They feed on nectar from milkweed, thistles, violets, ironweed, dogbane, verbena, Joe Pye weed, bergamot, purple coneflower, and zinnias. Interestingly, these caterpillars overwinter upon hatching on the tender leaves of violets. I did not know that. So the next time you see violets in your yard or garden, think twice about removing them. I know I will. These butterflies thrive in open, sunny places like your backyard or in parks. They tolerate mild shade as long as nectar sources are present. The ventral side of the hind wings features a pale submarginal band and pronounced silver spots, a key identification feature. The great spangled flitterary is among the larger butterfly species in their habitat. So one more thing about the zinnias. Last year I planted them in my backyard, right outside my back door where I could see them. And I'm not kidding you. Every day I had about at least 3 butterflies landing on my zinnias. And the bees like them too. And in the fall, when they go to seed, the birds like them. So they're very useful. So that's it for me. Now I introduce Vasudha.
Okay. Now? I turned that to green. Yeah. Is it better now? Yeah. Okay. So the 2 butterflies that I'm going to talk about is the eastern tail blue and the painted lady butterflies. So these butterflies, they thrive in open, sunny places like your Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
No, keep going.
Oh, it's going this way. Got it. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. So these are photographs of the male and female butterflies, the eastern tail blue. Oh, sorry. So they are tiny, common butterflies native to North America. And their name comes from a very unique feature. The 2 tiny projections that you can see and they're called, referred to as the tails. And I'll talk a little bit more about them in the fun fact side. They actually have a practical use for these butterflies. It's just not a showy thing. And the habitats are prairies, fields, empty lots, roadsides, residential yards, open sunny spaces. The first stage, the egg stage, is a tiny pinhead size. And literally, I was telling Jean that I had a hard time finding a picture of this egg for this butterfly. This is literally the only one that I could find. And they're single, pale green or white turban-shaped. And the host plants are legumes, peas, beans, alfalfa, lupine, clover, and vetch. The next stage is the caterpillar, or the larva stage. And these are, again, tiny, and they come in a range of colors depending on their diet. So they can range from purple, brown, green, reddish, yellow, and pink. And these little guys are really tough. I had no idea, but they actually overwinter here. And mostly in the seed pods, but also in the leaf litter. So again, as we mentioned earlier, you really don't want to you do need to do some cleanup in the fall, but not take everything out. Leave some for these little guys here. The host plants are legume leaves, vetch, clover, and alfalfa. The next stage is the pupa or the chrysalis, and it's a hibernating stage that lasts for 8 to 12 days. And these are pale green, tan, and spotted with black or whitish markings. And the photo there shows the pupa in clover leaf. So then in about 8 to 12 days, the larva undergoes major changes. And then from the chrysalis, you really need a drum roll for this. It's absolutely magnificent. You see the adult butterfly. It's truly magical. I haven't seen it with any of these butterflies, but I've seen it with a monarch. And it's pretty amazing. So these, they're just very small, dime size. Lifespan is only 4 to 10 days. And the total lifespan, life cycle is about a month. So they have to get a lot done in that time frame, and they do. And so now these are the host plants for the caterpillars. And they use the seeds, the flowers, and the leaves of wild pea. We've actually got pea plants growing in our backyard right now. So I didn't realize there's a difference between wild peas and the peas that we grow. So I went out for the first few days checking to see if there were any caterpillars. None on them, but we do have a whole bunch of caterpillars on the black swallowtail that Beth talked about on our dill plants. And then you have the Carolina vetch, white clover, and alfalfa. The nectar plants, the butterfly, these are for the adult butterflies, and they drink the flower, the nectar from the flower. And so you have the asters, wood sorrel, shepherd's needle, cinquefoils, bush clover, wild strawberry, low bush blueberry, and wintercress. And as I was getting these slides ready, I was impressed. These butterflies have really good taste. They pick some really magnificent flowering plants. So the main threats to these butterflies are human activity, which lead to habitat loss. So some of the blue species have actually gone extinct because of habitat loss. But somehow the eastern tail blue has adapted and has actually managed to thrive in certain areas. Sue talked about the insecticides. They hurt every aspect of the butterfly cycle, and then removal of the leaf litter where they overwinter. Predation, spiders, wasps, birds, especially when they're not tended to by the protective ants. And I'll talk about that in the next few slides. So the fun facts about these butterflies, like I said, they're just tiny, but they're powerhouses, size of a dime. And quick life cycles, they can have up to 3 broods in a year. The tail trick, so those 2 tiny tails that we had seen in the earlier slide, they actually used as decoys. And along with they have some orange spots also on their wings. On the caterpillar that they use as a decoy. And this distracts the predator. And so the predator might go for instead of biting the butterfly's head off, might go for the tail, which is not, they don't hurt from losing that tail. They have a symbiotic ant protection program at the caterpillar stage. So what the caterpillar does is it has a honey gland that actually secretes a sugary substance, and this attracts a certain type of ants, and then the ants in turn protect them from predators. So as you can see in these pictures over here, that one looks actually a little scary. Got all these, overrun, it seems like, by the ants, but they're actually protecting them. And apparently it keeps at least some of the smaller predators away. And they also have puddle parties, and they're known as puddling. They gather around puddles, damp areas, and mostly to get the salts, which are not found in the nectar, minerals, and socialize. So you may have seen, the picture on the right indicates what a puddling party looks like. And these are low riders. They hover close to the ground. And I also wanted to point out that the blue pigment is really rare in nature. And it makes the butterfly sensitive to environmental changes. But again, this eastern blue has adapted well to that. I think I need a drink of water. Excuse me. Okay, now the next butterfly. Oh, the conclusion. It's such tiny creatures, but you find them in lawns and roadsides, and this just proves that if you just stop, take a moment, and look around, you see the magic of nature just about everywhere. Painted Lady, Vanessa Cardui. So this is one of the most widespread of all the butterfly species. Highly migratory, long-distance migrant. I'll give you a little bit more information about that. Tires you out just to read about how far they migrate. It's found in all the lower 48 states, and I can actually survive mild winters in Wisconsin, which is really impressive. And again, like the eastern blue, it's highly adaptable, and it's found in open areas like gardens, parks, meadows, and roadsides. The egg stage, I found a few more pictures of eggs for this butterfly, pinhead-sized eggs that are laid on the leaves of thistles, mallows, sunflowers, yarrow, hollyhock, rose of Sharon, lupines, and clover. The larva stage, it hatches in about 3 to 5 days. It's nocturnal and spiny, gray-brown or purple-black with yellow side stripes. Host plants for the caterpillar are thistles, mallows, Joe Pye weed, asters, ironweed. Seems like, a lot of us have these plants. Well, maybe not the thistles, but what's that? Is that poisonous? I'm guessing they're probably poisonous to some of the, predators out there. So, and probably, with the color and the spines and so on, probably a defense mechanism that they, to keep the predators at bay. The next stage, the pupa, the chrysalis, the caterpillar hangs upside down. It seems like a pretty simple transformation by a single silken string and forms the chrysalis. And then in 7 to 10 days, the larva undergoes changes, and again, the adult butterfly emerges. This one's a little bit bigger than the eastern blue, medium size. Lifespan, again, is only 2 to 4 weeks. And the food for the butterfly, they prefer the flower nectar from plants that are about 3 to 6 feet tall. And so you have the thistles, asters, joe pye weed, purple liatris, red clover, and cosmos. The threats, again, are similar to the other butterfly. Human activity leading to habitat loss, that's the primary cause. Pesticides and pollution. You have the birds, predatory insects, parasites like flies and wasps, reptiles and amphibians like lizards and frogs. And so the fun facts for these, they have the widest distribution of any butterfly species, and they're speedy flyers, can reach speeds up to 20 miles per hour. And the migration, I had mentioned already, they're long-distance migrators, and over 9,000 miles. 10,000 miles is halfway around the world. So that's really traveling. And they're highly adaptable. And in conclusion, so this species, which completes its life cycle in less than a month, is a crucial pollinator. It's a real testament to the unexpected challenges of not only this butterfly, but all the other insects. They face all these challenges from predators, humans, and so on. And in spite of that, they manage to not only survive, but thrive. Thank you. I'm gonna give that to you. And then you need this.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Vasuda. I want to change the pace just a little bit because all you've heard so far, butterflies kind of following the same general pattern, but there are butterflies that don't, that are different. For example, this is a morning cloak butterfly, and that's morning with a U. It looks like it's got a big cape. It lives long as 10 months, and its host plants are trees, not nectar, not host plants. It lays its eggs up in the trees, on the little twigs there, and then the caterpillars stay together, kind of in a web, and that's where they eat and grow. The morning cloak doesn't visit nectar plants too much. It goes for spoiled fruit, like maybe berries that have fallen off of a bush, and tree sap. And it also likes moist places. In the winter, this butterfly hides itself somehow in cracks in the tree bark until spring. So it's very different. It's a kind of hibernation. And then just quickly, two that are kind of similar. This one is a comma butterfly. It's found all over Illinois. its host plants are nettles, hops, elms, and hackberry trees. And the name comes from a little marking on the underside of the wings. On the right, you see the wings are closed, and you see a very small little white, like a letter C. No, that's a comma. That's where the name comes from. And then this last one, there's the question mark. Similar in coloring, but a little larger. It also eats rotting fruit and tree sap. And the underside of its wing has a little curved line plus a dot, which makes a question mark. So, and also with its wings closed like that, has excellent camouflage. So those are just two that are slightly different. And it's time to go to questions. Let's see. Let's just summarize first before we get questions. For your butterfly garden, you want to have a sunny place, and it's a good idea to plant some of the host plants and nectar plants kind of close together so that butterflies can find them. It's always good to have groupings of the same, larger numbers of the same plant. Always beware of caterpillars. Delay your spring cleanup. So those baby caterpillars that are just lying in the leaf litter or under a stem or under a leaf so they don't get swept away. And do not use chemicals or pesticides. All right.